Welcome to the TOCA Backstage podcast. Join TOCA's Executive Director, Chris Wolf, in conversations with the artists and people behind the scenes of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation's performances and events.
Hi, this is Chris Wolf, Executive Director of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation. It is my extreme pleasure to be speaking today with Megan Dolan, the creator, the writer, and performer for Not the Right Mom at the Armstrong Theater on Saturday, April 11th. Megan, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure to be here.
So, Not the Right Mom. Why don't you give sort of your elevator speech about what this show is?
Okay, so it's billed as One Mother's Misadventures in Autism, a full spectrum comedy. And basically, when my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 5, and I started attending the different support groups, I noticed the other parents seemed very type A. They were organized, they were on the ball, and I thought, we are in trouble because that's not me. And so the basic theme of the show is, what if my son doesn't get the support he needs because I'm not the right mom? And through the arc of the show, I learned why I am the right mom, but it's not for the reasons that I thought I should be. Yeah. Yes.
Well, and I'm curious, when you were creating this, was there ever a time when you thought to yourself, should I really be talking about this particular part of our life? Or was there ever a point where you were trying to edit yourself as far as what you could and couldn't talk about?
Every single word I wrote. Yes. Yes. The whole time I was writing it. And when I first started writing it, I didn't know it was a show. I was in a Artist's Way group, a 12-week, it's a creative, kind of a creative process. And I was in this group and all of this was happening. So I just started writing in real time. And I didn't know I was writing a show. I was just writing because that's how I process what happens in my life. But as it started to come to life, yeah, I was afraid I would just get up there and people would be like, wow, she's a really bad parent. But on the flip side of that, when I did the first show at the Lyric Hyperion in the fall of 2018, actually, and then just the response was just so much relief from people, recognition, like, thank you for saying the quiet part out loud. Like, it was just, I'll never forget it. It was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life.
It's interesting because I've seen the show, and I've seen it in a showcase atmosphere at a conference, and it does touch. Fortunately, I neither one of my kids have autism, but I know a lot of people whose children are autistic, and it doesn't seem like it's a subject that people talk about. It's almost like it's sort of under wraps. Do you think there's like a sort of a stigma to that, or is?
I think that's changing. I think it was like that for a very long time, but there's a whole neurodivergent, movement, because there isn't something wrong. It's just a different way of processing the world, and the way that our society and culture is set up is more for, neurotypical people. And so neurodivergent people have had to like wedge their way in. But now I think with the awareness that has been coming, especially over the last few years, I think that's changing, but it's still, it's not easy, and it's hard to know the right things to do, and everything feels very high stakes, especially when your kid is newly diagnosed and you don't know what to address first or which way to go. But I think the whole approach to it is changing. I have a friend who wrote a short film. Her son was autistic, and she was like a real just go getter, like in the school system, really fighting for him. And she got to a certain point where she realized there's nothing wrong with him. It's just that these systems are not set up for him to thrive. And she wrote a short film about what if when you get your child's diagnosis, it's a celebration. Like, what if it's a parade and a party? And it was just like, it was so moving to me because it doesn't have to be this, doom and gloom. It's just an awareness of what they need and how they process. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's sort of really that's really important to point out, is that it's not a horrific thing.
No.
It is just a different way somebody thinks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Exactly.
processes things. I mean,
Right.
forgive me, I know very little about it because, like I said, I'm not sort of in the throes of it. But
Right.
from somebody outside, it does seem like it's there. In the past, there was a stigma where it's kind of like, oh, he's autistic, blah 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 blah
Right.
blah,
Right.
but now it's kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. This is People are being educated on who aren't dealing with it, on how to
Right.
deal with it.
Yes.
That makes
Yes.
sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think people are owning it more, in a way, just saying like, oh yeah, like I have these qualities and I have these strengths. And I know, at least for my son, because he's now 16, he's learning kind of what he needs to thrive. Like he had to get some things put in place in school this year because the workload was just kind of crushing. So and so now he has a free period during the day to do his work at school because he just had this block to doing work at home. So that was really good, just clues for me and my husband and for my son of like, oh, when he gets to college, like he's going to need to be aware of how he manages his time and allow for downtime because he's just not one of those kids that can go, 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 go. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious too, when usually when there's like a musical artist will put together a concert, they'll know that people are, they've performed their hearts out, and they people leave singing their songs. I'm curious as to what you want people to walk away with, but more right now, I'm just curious about what do you walk away with after you do your show?
Hmm. Um, ah, I hope this doesn't sound corny. It's such a good use of me and the skills and talents that I have. But what I walk away with, I feel filled up because we do a talk back after the show, and the questions that I get, or just the the looks in people's eyes of you just told my story, like that's what they'll say, and I there's nothing better than that feeling. Um, it just feels like there was a purpose for all of it, for all of this experience, and me sitting. I'm so grateful that I sat down and put pen to paper, because I have this thing now to bring to communities, and it's just I've never felt more useful.
And do you think that there's a people are coming to the show? I mean, it's interesting because I originally went um, because a friend of mine, it was a friend's theater, and he was like, "Oh, you got to see the show." And a friend of mine, I also got an email from a friend of mine who had helped direct the first episode
Yep.
or first iteration of it, and so I went, "Okay, yeah, I'll go." And I was moved. I thought it was, brilliantly done. And my wife, who's also in special education, really enjoyed it. Um, and I'm just curious at, at at this point, where do you see it going from here? What do you hope to? What's your hope for the show?
Well, I've just gotten a taste now of, I just did 2 shows in Minnesota. I got to travel to Vegas and do the show. I'm just getting a taste of what it's like to take it on the road. I would like to keep going. I would like to keep getting booked. I mean, ultimately, I'd love for it to kind of gain a little bit of notoriety or popularity, so it's not so hard to get people to come see it. And what I have learned is I don't think I've quite hit how exactly to market it, because it's kind of like people see it and then they get it and then they want to bring their friends. You know, a lot of times people be like, oh, if I'd known it was this good, I would have brought more people. So I'm still kind of figuring out that aspect of the best way to pitch it. But ultimately my goal, I would love to, yeah, I'd love to do a run in a theater where I'm getting to do it several nights a week, and kind of get that rhythm. Because I mean, I love doing it the way I'm going to do it in one-offs, but I would love to have that momentum. Yeah.
And we heard what you get out of it. What do you hope people walk away with from your show?
I hope that they feel seen. I hope it gives them a sense of relief that they're not alone. And I hope that because a lot of people have seen it that don't have kids who are on the spectrum, and they've just voiced it like, wow, this gave me a new perspective. You know, I hope there's maybe a little less judgment when someone's at Thanksgiving dinner with their nephew and the kid like will only eat mashed potatoes. You know what I mean? Like just a new kind of understanding of like, leave people alone and let them kind of, you know, figure things out.
Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking about earlier, was that it's like now, because people know more about it and sort of there's a name for it, autism, people are learning to be more accepting of it, being more, it's like you said, if somebody walks up to you and acts in a manner that isn't like the norm, and you find out that they're autistic, then you know, okay, you accept it, you can deal with it a little differently.
Right. It gives you more compassion and understanding. Right.
So how long have you've started this show in 2018?
That was a first performance. Yeah.
And has it gone through a lot of changes during that time?
Yes. So I did a run of it at the Whitefire in 2019, and then early 2020 I had a run at Cal State Long Beach, but then the pandemic, you know, everything shut down, and I didn't do the show for 3 years. And all I knew was I had to do it one more time. I wasn't ready to let it go. So as I think it was 2022, we applied for the Long Beach Playhouse. They have a collective there, and we applied there. And then I was working with a new director at that time, and we did a deep dive into the script. And what was great was having 3 years off meant the words weren't as precious. So I was like much more able to cut, because I was like, oh, this didn't work and that didn't work. And so it just really got streamlined. And so I did it there, and I just refueled me because it was so much fun. And then we got to bring on Jessica Hayes and Joseph Ott, who wrote original music for the transitions in the show. So it's a musical element that, as an actor, like selfishly, these songs are so beautiful. They set me up for each scene. It's like I don't have to do anything, because it's just like delivers me, because they're just so good. So once that was added, then I was like, oh, I have got to keep doing this. Every time I would do it, I just would feel so alive and like was so determined to keep going. But as you know, like life in the arts, it's like you do the show and then you don't get to do it for months at a time, but that's just, you know, that's the part of it, is then trying to hustle and figure out but then you came into my life and introduced me to the Performing Arts Center conferences, and that's the only reason I've been able to keep going. So it felt like I'd reached a point where I couldn't take it any further, and I was about to let it go, and then the universe was like, nope, let's keep going. And it's been such a gift. Yeah.
Well, it does. I mean, it's interesting because like we just did what the Constitution means to me at the theater, um, which, by the way, just for full disclosure, Jessica Hayes, who wrote your music, was also in that
Yes.
show.
Yes.
But to me, that was timely because it was dealing with something that's like with things going on in the world.
Yeah.
But it and that's almost like a finite um, timeline because it's like happening now. It won't happen hopefully in the future. Um, but this show almost seems timely like forever because autism isn't going away.
Right. Well, it's interesting because from when I first wrote it, the language around autism, it's always evolving. So there are things that I'm always tweaking it a little bit because I got feedback from a couple talkbacks. Because the first line of the show is the first thing I do after receiving my 5-year-old's diagnosis is Google celebrities with autism, where I used to say celebrities with Asperger's because that was the diagnosis we originally received. But in 2013, Asperger's was taken out of that. I forgot the name of that book, the DSM or whatever it is that chronicles all the those disorders because and it was just autism spectrum disorder. That's the name of it. They didn't want to have these kind of variations. And so when I was continuing to say Asperger's at the top of the show, I got feedback that some people were taken out of it because they knew that's not the term that was being used. And it's always a fine line of you don't want to be changing things just because, it might make someone uncomfortable. But that to me felt like, oh, that's kind of an easy fix. And that's just an example of how things are always evolving. But yeah, I feel like the story is timeless because it's about that feeling of being thrown into a situation that you don't feel like you're qualified for, but you can't give up. Like you have to show up. So that's really the theme of it.
It just occurred to me. Can I ask a really stupid question?
Please, I do
And
it all.
forgive me for and to anyone listening or watching this. So there's the autism spectrum,
Right.
right? So spectrum is like from here to there. Are there benchmarks on that spectrum?
There,
So
and I really need to be more up on this, but now there's levels. There's level 1 and 2, and from what my understanding is, there's the people that need a lot of support, and then in gradients, then to people who don't need as much as far as like daily support, but still struggle, socially or with with textures and lights and sounds and processing and things like that. So it's just, it's a very wide spectrum. Yeah.
but so like but so there, I guess my question is, so there are benchmarks of
Right.
like where on the spectrum you would be in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Again,
Exactly.
stupid question. I was just curious if that
It's
was.
not stupid at all. And it has kind of a newer, I need to be up more on the newer kind of language around it. I just know that Asperger's is no longer, although there is a whole kind of generation of people that identify with that term Asperger's. So it's kind of to each his own a little bit, but then some people really don't like it. Yeah.
And you had mentioned that during the show you do a talk back.
Mhm.
What kind of feedback do you get from that? I mean, is that why did you incorporate a talk back?
Because it seemed like when I would go out to the lobby, like people just had so many questions and really wanted to talk about their experience of the show. And I don't even remember how I don't remember how we incorporated the first talk back, but once we did it, we realized, oh, we have to do this every time. And a lot of times it's people wanting to, a lot of it is personal questions. The first question they always ask is, has my son seen the show? That's yes. And the answer to that is yes, on video. He doesn't, he doesn't want to sit in the theater, which I completely respect, but he has given me his permission. And as I always say to everyone, it's a story about me, more than him. But
Well, what I found really humorous was when I saw it live in the theater. Um, your husband was kind enough to come along with you for the talk back, and because he's mentioned several times in the show, and the
oh,
poor guy, it's like I thought this guy is going to be pounded with questions, and he just sat there. And nobody. It's like, okay, yay, husband. Okay, now Megan about this, and it was like he was like he didn't even exist.
which was weird because in the other talkbacks he's been a part of, he got tons of questions. So yeah, I don't
I
know.
just I felt bad for him, but I thought it was very funny. Um, so, uh, did I already ask you what you hope people walk away with from this show?
You did? I don't know if I answered it because I might have.
Oh, I think we went into what you wanted.
Oh,
What's your goal for people? What do you hope people walk away with from this show?
it, it might sound strange, but what I hope, because this is what I seek when I go to art in some ways, is like relief, like a little like recognition and relief that they're not alone. That's my hope. Yeah. And I hope that because it is a comedy, that opens people up, like disarms them a little bit to be able to go on this journey. Because I know sometimes at the beginning of the show, and people have told me this, they're like, I don't know if it's okay to laugh, because of the subject matter. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's that. I could actually see. I mean, you bring up a really good point. It's almost like because it is a comedy that it's people connect to it easier. And
Uh-huh.
if it was a
Yeah.
drama or like a whatever, do you find that that's the case that people are more
Yeah.
willing to laugh at it, and does it hit them differently?
What I love and my like my ultimate goal is that fine line of like laughter to tears. Like I want it to be a ride of like, yes, that it's these absurd situations, and then you hit kind of the core or the pain. Like there's I just thought of a part that I was going to reference, and then it left me. But like anyway, it'll come back, and
Uh,
then I'll interrupt you and.
by all means, by all means. Um, well, as you know, the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation, besides presenting great shows like yours, I always like to ask performers when they do this, if an actor, writer, performer comes to you and asks for like your words of wisdom because they want to get involved in the arts, what's your go-to response?
I mean, the first thing that came to me is to find your people. I have a community of writers, and I really trust. So when I'm working on things, I'm sharing it with them and getting feedback, and we move each other forward. So I think that is essential. And then also, at least for a show like this, what I did is I would take a piece and I would work on it for several months, and then I would present it someplace like Expressing Motherhood or different storytelling shows around LA, to just because the only way I know if it works is if I do it in front of an audience. So that's another thing I would say.
Awesome. And you've done like a lot of storytelling events. Do you
Mm-hmm.
find that that's um, besides testing out your material, do you find that that's sort of another way to scratch the performance bug?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I live in Long Beach, so it's hard for me to go up because most of these shows are up in LA. Like, I wish there were more local, but I've been wanting to do a lot more of them. I'm hoping to build the next show. It'll take me a few years, most likely, but yeah. Yeah.
So you are working on a new show.
Slowly, Chris. Slowly.
What
Yeah.
is same topic, different topic?
No, no, I don't think my children would give me permission to write about their adolescence. No, no, this is about when during the pandemic, my mom and my stepdad, I was like kind of in the sandwich generation, taking care of elderly parents and school age kids simultaneously. And it's about that kind of that experience and the absurd situations I found myself in. I just don't have yet the arc of it. I have all of these stories, but I don't quite have the through line of that. But what I do know about like people in Gen X is everyone is going through that, like everyone. And so I think it would be a very timely type of story that people could relate to.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
That does seem again, every person's story. It's like something that
Yeah.
everybody hits at one point or
Right.
another.
It's so like the more specific, the more universal, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
which is counterintuitive, but yeah.
And I understand that in when you do the gig in Torrance, that you're bringing some guests with you for the talk back.
Yes. So, two organizations that I'm a part of that were really important to me, especially when my son was younger. We Are Brave Together, which is a support group for special needs moms and is based in the South Bay. And then also the Long Beach Hero Squad, which is actually a neighbor of mine turned me on to that. And they are a group that advocates for kids with autism in the schools, public schools in Long Beach. So Jessica Pate and April, and I'm forgetting her last name right now, but they will be joining me in the talk back as like community leaders and with a lot of knowledge.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the show again. And just as a reminder, that's Not the Right Mom on Saturday, April 11th at 8 p.m. Megan, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you, Chris. This was really, really fun. I hope I didn't say anything stupid.
Join the club. Well, I do every time, so don't worry. You're good.
Okay. What is wrong with me? I won't even say the word. I'm not the right mom.
As a parent, we all feel like we're just not enough.
I don't know what to do, Mia. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do, Mia. Tell me what to do.
It's helpful. It just makes you feel that, like, I can do this.
Pretty sure that's too much to ask of a 5-year-old. But I want someone to blame. So I turn to my husband.
It's hysterical. It's clever. It's witty. It's sharp. And it's different.
Kale blend. He does not know about the kale, but it is there.
It makes you think, it makes you feel, it makes you connect.
There are also hidden gifts that A-brainers can be perseverant, compassionate. We thrive in situations of chaos.
It's a hero's journey. Go through all the tumult to come out changed and accepting of yourself.
David has autism. We're trying to find the right therapist.
We can make it through.